Well, hello everybody. Welcome back. Jiu-Jitsu 2000 here today. I'm back and I have an interesting video for you. Today we're going to talk about the DILLON RL550B. You can see that I have the press over here and I'm going to take you through the process of what I like to do from start to finish to load the 38 special. I'm going to go through tool head setup. We're going to set the shell plate up. We're going to do a little bit of maintenance on the press, and we're going to set up all 4 stations on the tool head. So stay with me. I hope you enjoy the video, and by the time you're done with this, you'll have no problems setting this thing up and loading 38 special progressively. Here's a quick look at the press. You can see that the tool head is already removed and the shell plate is removed. So what we're looking at is the shell plate platform. Now before I mount the shell plate or tool head or anything, what I want to make sure of is that this platform is clean, that there's no gunpowder, no oil residue, nothing like that in that shell plate platform. So what I like to do is I like to take a toothbrush and a little bit of alcohol. Let's get a little bit on there. And then I like to scrub everything on this shell plate platform, getting rid of any kind of dust or any kind of debris or anything that might be in the way. The reason I use alcohol is because it cleans very well and it also dries very well. So I'm going to take a small napkin. I'm just cleaning this up. This is the first step, in my opinion, of what's necessary to getting this thing ready to go. The reason I do this is because I don't want anything getting on my press that's going to be creating any kind of drag or anything like that. I want this thing to run smooth. And I mean, you're looking at the rag right there, you can see that I've already got some dirt and stuff on this little rag. And I already thought it was clean, to be completely honest with you. I thought this thing was already clean. But as you can see, it wasn't. Clean the chute, just clean the whole thing. So I'm going to take this cotton ball and I'm going to make like a little thing. I'm going to stick it down in here where the detent ball goes. I'm just cleaning that out. Cool thing once again about alcohol, it gets rid of all the junk and it dries when it's done. So it does a good job cleaning, you know, where the locator buttons go, just around the edges. I just don't want nothing that's going to slow me down once I get started. Alcohol is not going to hurt my press, it's not going to hurt the aluminum, it's not going to hurt nothing. These are a few parts on the press that we're going to need next. We're also going to need our caliber conversion kit for whatever caliber we're going to be using. So in our case we have the 38 special. I'm going to go ahead and open that up and show you what's included. We have 3 locator buttons, we have the shell plate itself, and we have the case mouth expansion powder through funnel. So all of this stuff needs to be clean as well. So if you got any kind of dirt or debris or anything like that, make sure that your powder funnel is clean. What I like to do is I like to take a brush and run it down the powder funnel with alcohol, just like I did on that shell plate platform. Same thing, you know, you just want everything nice and clean. You don't want nothing getting bound up or powder getting held up or anything like that. So this thing needs to be clean. The shell plate needs to be clean. Locator buttons, everything needs to be clean. That's going to get us the best performance out of this press. This one's already pretty clean. Got a little bit of debris, but not much. Looks good. I'm ready to install it. Now we're looking at the press itself, and you can see the shell plate platform. What I want to do is I want to take this small spring and I'm going to stick that in the hole there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the detent ball and I'm going to stick that right on top of the spring, and from here I'm going to take my shell plate and I'm going to add my shell plate and I'm going to put one of these holes. You see I've got 4 holes, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put one of the holes right on top of the detent ball. Now from here I'm going to take the indexing star. It's going to fit in those 4 holes, just like that. Nothing too crazy. And now from here, I'm going to take the shell plate bolt, drop that baby right down in there, and I'm going to start tightening the bolt. Nothing too crazy. Don't want it gorilla tight, we just want it snug. We want to be able to make sure that we can index nice and free. So we'll back it off a little bit. We want a nice clean index of the press. We want this thing to be able to move nice and free. We don't want it too tight. When you index, you'll notice that it'll try to tighten the bolt on you. So you might push this down to release this bolt a little bit, and then just hold the bolt down. That'll give you kind of a sense of what kind of tightness you need. Don't need this thing too tight, but you don't want it too loose, because if you have it too loose, then you have too much flex in your shell plate. So you don't want it too loose, but you don't want it too tight. There's kind of a fine line on what you want here as far as your index is concerned. I'd say about right there is about what we want. Now what we'll do is we'll raise the ram, and we're going to find this little brass tipped screw. I think it's our 1/8 inch Allen wrench, and we're going to stick that brass screw right there and tighten it in. Okay, again folks, it doesn't need to be gorilla tight or anything, it just needs to be snug. So now we'll lower the ram, and what that little screw does, that little set screw, is it keeps this shell plate bolt from moving. I think that's going to work perfect for me. There's not too much flex, works good. I think that's going to work good. You also want to make sure that the ram can freely go up and down, that everything's nice and smooth. If your ram needs a little bit of oil, I would recommend using a 30-weight oil, and you just want to make sure that your press is nice and smooth, and that your priming arm, or should I say your primer punch, comes through the shell plate nice and easy, and you can see that. So you want everything nice and smooth, and this thing feels really good. So now we're ready to install the tool head. We're going to stick this baby right here, just like that, and we have our two tool head buttons, pins that hold the tool head in place. We're going to drop those down in there. 1, 2. That'll keep the tool head from coming out. Now you see that we have our powder die. We're going to take our case mouth expansion and our powder through funnel. We're going to drop that right down inside of there. Now what we want to do is we're going to take the 3 brass locator buttons. 1, stick those on. 1, 2, and then 1 on the back side. 3. Whoops, about to drop that. There we go. And again, let's test and make sure our index feels good, which it does. From here, we're going to raise the ram a little bit, and what I want to do now is I want to lower this die down, not too far. I mean, I don't want it touching anything. I just want it where it just comes in contact with the shell plate, and then I'm going to back it off a little bit and tighten this lock ring. And let's lock that lock ring. Whoops, slipped off there. So there we go. Now we have this all ready to go. This can go in freely. This is not coming in contact hard on it with the shell plate, so everything is smooth. Now we're ready to start with our dies. So here's a closer look at the powder funnel here. We're coming in contact just slightly, just barely. We're not going too crazy, because there's plenty of play for this to go up and down. We just want it nice and close. Okay, now it's time to install the first die, which is going to be station 1, right here where my finger is. This is going to be the decapping and resizing die. So I'm going to use a DILLON set of dies. I'm going to locate that die, which is noted by the decapping pin. Okay, so what I want to do to install this die is I want to raise the ram all the way up, and I'm going to thread the die body down until the die body touches the shell plate. Once I make contact with the shell plate, I'm going to back the die body back about a 1/16 of a turn, and I'm going to lock the die body lock ring. So this die will be set. Make sure that I'm nice and smooth there. I don't want to go too crazy. You can see that I have some small pistol primers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them and I'm going to put them into my primer flip tray, and I'm going to shake it so that they orient all the same way. These little grooves that you feel, that is what helps flip these guys over. I just kind of flip them over till I get them all faced up. So once I got them all oriented faced up, I want to make sure that they all have an anvil and that they all have priming compound. And if they do, then I'll put the lid on and I'll flip these guys over, and then I'll take the top off, and now I can use my pickup tube to pick up these primers. Pick these guys up one at a time. So now my primer pickup tube is full. We're going to take our primer pickup tube, we're going to flip it upside down, making sure that we have our hitch pin in. You hear the primers move. We're going to take off our low primer alarm. We're going to take out our primer follower, and we're going to insert the follower into the pickup tube here, just like that. Now we're going to set this down, pull the hitch pin, and all the primers and the follower are going to go into this chute. I like doing that because I always want to make sure that my primer pickup tube is empty. I put the low primer alarm, and then I'm going to put this down, make sure that it's making an audible sound, which it does, and then I'm going to put the follower down inside so that when this thing runs out of primers, this little weight will activate the alarm and it'll let me know I need primers. I'm also going to take the hitch pin and put the hitch pin right back here where it was, because I don't want to lose that, and I'm going to set this pickup tube away. So now I have primers in the system. I have a case in station 1, so I'm going to raise the ram at this point. I'm going to decap and resize, and looking at this primer arm, you'll notice that as it comes forward, there should be a primer in that little cup. See, that cup has a primer sitting in it? Right there. Now as the ram comes forward, it's going to put that underneath the piece of brass, and when I push forward, we should prime this case. We have a well-seated primer, small pistol primer. Now we're finished with station 1. We can start to move forward onto station 2. Okay, for station 2, we're going to need our fail-safe rod. We're going to need our powder measure with our pistol slide bar, and we're going to need what kind of powder we're going to be using. So in our case today, we're going to be using Olight Unique. So we're going to go ahead and fill this powder measure up with Olight Unique. And I want to make sure that I keep this container close to the press so that I know without a doubt what type of powder I have in the press at this time. So I'm going to just leave that close so I know. We're going to take this powder measurer and we're going to insert it onto the powder die. But these two screws right here, these two Allen screws, need to be loose for that to happen. Okay, so they're nice and loose, and you notice how it slipped down? That's exactly what we want. Now from here, we're going to tighten them just a slight bit, not too much. We're just going to go nice, and we're going to get them where they're still loose enough for this thing to move around, but tight enough where it's not going to come off. Okay, so we're just going to get this just about like that, something like that, not too crazy. I still want it to be able to move around, but not too much. Now we're going to take our bar here, our fail-safe rod, and we're going to connect it. We're going to pinch these two pieces together and run our fail-safe rod in. Then we're going to raise the ram a little bit and get this little keeper right there. Now when the ram is at rest, when it's at its resting position, we should be nice and free. And the angle of this bar needs to be adjusted by rotating this powder measure so that that angle of this bar is direct and straight with this. We don't want this thing at a crazy angle. So from this angle you can see that this bar is completely incorrect on the angle. So what I want to do is I want to straighten things up so that everything is nice and smooth. Okay, this thing is going to be nice and smooth and easy to operate. We also want to make sure that this spring, when we push this thing forward, that this spring is pretty much depressed, and we want that spring nice and sprung, you know, pushed against. Okay, we want not a lot of motion between that. Something like that. So what that does is that makes sure that we disengage our powder measure. So now we need to know what amount of powder we want to throw for this charge. So I'm going to take this brass locator button out for now. I'm going to set it out of the way because I'm going to be taking this on and off as I'm checking my powder charge. So now it's time to do your research, do your load data checking, and find out what kind of powder charge you want for this particular bullet. I'm going to get that done, and then I'll see you back at the press. I've determined that the powder charge that I need for a 158 grain jacketed hollow point Rainier bullet is between 4.5 and 5.0 grains. So I'm going to set my charge at about 4.6. On station 2 here, before the bullet can be just inserted into the case, I need to expand the case mouth to make it easy to facilitate that bullet to go in. So what I need to do is I need to raise the ram slightly and let this go up and see what kind of case mouth expansion I have on this. I don't have nothing. So to increase the amount of case mouth expansion, I'm going to dump the powder charge out first, back in the top of the hopper. I'll put the case back in. I'm going to loosen this lock ring, and because these two bolts are still kind of loose on this powder measure, see, remember I left it flexible, I'm going to thread the die body down slightly until I get the amount of case mouth expansion that I need. So let me make sure that this is a little bit loose, like I mentioned. Back these babies off just a little bit. So we're going to loosen the die lock ring just a little bit. I'm going to go back a couple turns on that. Now we're going to tighten the die body down a little bit. And then we'll raise the ram again, we'll check. We're not worried about powder charge yet, we're worried about case mouth expansion. Okay, so not enough, we'll insert it back. Let's turn this a little more. Small increments. Okay, let's pour this powder out and try it again. The fact that I'm throwing powder charges right now is actually a good thing. Even though I'm not ready for powder, it's good because it's helping to normalize the powder, getting the powder flowing the way it should. And then we'll take that measurement here in a little bit and we'll see what our powder charge looks like. But we need to get the correct case mouth expansion first. So I'm kind of doing two things at once. Okay, let's go a little more. This thing is kind of hard to move the die, but it's not too crazy. I'm just moving this die body in small increments, nothing crazy. Let's raise the ram again. Let's see what we got going on. Oh, there we go. We got some case mouth expansion there. In fact, I think we went, let's take a look at that a little closer. I think we did a pretty decent little job there. That might be right about what we want. Okay, so now we've got the case mouth expansion the way we want it. I might add just a tiny bit more, but I'm going to raise the ram, and what that'll do is that'll lock that case mouth expansion, which will allow me to lock this die body lock ring. And I want to make sure that I get that nice and snug because I don't want that adjustment changing on me. Got that where I want it now. So now we're going to work on our powder charge. We needed 4.6 grains of powder. Let me dump this powder out real quick. We need 4.6 grains. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the piece of brass on the scale, and I'm going to turn the scale on. It's going to zero to that piece of brass. Then we're going to put it under station 2, raise the ram. It's going to throw some powder. We're going to put that on the scale, see where we're at, 4.3. So we need to increase the amount of powder that we need a little bit. Okay, now to increase the amount of powder, there's a little screw here on the back. I put these little red things on here. I'm turning it so you can see it. I put these little red things so that I can grab it by my hand. If you don't have these little red plastic things, you can use a, what is it, 7/16 I think, socket or a wrench. we need to go clockwise. One, I just went in about 2 turns. 1, 2, dump it out. So I needed more powder, so I went clockwise. Let's raise the ram. Let's take a look, see what we have. 4.6. That's exactly what I want. So let's take it, dump it out. Let's try it again. Make sure we're at 4.6. 4.6. We're in business. Remember, we can go all the way up to 5.0 if we needed to and be completely safe. So 4.6 is good for me. So we've got our powder charge set up. We're at 4.6. So now station 2 is finished. We can put that locator button back. And now what we need to do is go to station 3, and we are going to seat bullets now. Turn our scale off. We'll see you on station 3. We checked with our reloading manual, and we found that our bullet seating length, or our overall bullet length, is 1.480. So that's going to be our seating depth. That's going to be everything, 1.480. So we're going to take our bullet seating die right here, and it says seat die. We're going to thread the die in a little bit. Let's go ahead and put a bullet in there. Remember, we had nice case mouth expansion. So we're going to raise the ram. We're just doing these slow increments. Clockwise, seating the bullet a little bit. Clockwise, let's go down. We're going up into the die, 1.480. So now we're starting to get a little bit closer. 1.480. Let's take this locator button out so that we can check our length. We need 1.480. 1.61. So we're still pretty long. One thing I forgot to do is I forgot to tighten up these screws here on this powder measure. So let's make sure that everything's lined up and tighten this stuff up, because now we have our powder measure already set to where we want it to be, so we don't want this thing moving on us. So again, we're going to just snug those babies up. Now let's increase the seating depth a little bit by rotating the die down clockwise. Seat the bullet a little bit. Okay, we're looking for 1.480. 1.56, so we're getting closer. Turn the die body clockwise. 1.480 is our target. The closer we get to the desired length, the smaller the adjustments need to be on the die body. 1.480 is what we're looking for. Now you might be wondering, I had 1.50 there. You might be wondering, why did I not trim the brass? That's because these are plinking loads, and I'm not too worried about trimming. 1.497, so we're getting very close. We're going to go for 1.480. 1.494, a little bit more. I'm not trimming because the cylinder on this revolver does not affect my head space. 1.480. Wow, that's cool. We are right on the money. So now I'm going to raise the ram all the way up, and I'm going to tighten the die body lock ring for that bullet seating depth. If we were going to be shooting bullets that had a cantilever, trimming the bullets would be important for us, because we would need that crimp to roll up into the cantilever. But for us today, we're not worried about that. 1.480, hopefully you can see that. I am right on the money. So we are done with station 3, bullet seating. Let's move forward to station 4, bullet crimping. Okay, at this point we're going to index forward. We're going to go into station 4. We are going to take the die body and we're going to raise the ram all the way up, and we're going to thread the die body down until we feel it come in contact with the top of the case. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to lower the ram, give it a little more, lower the ram, tighten it a little more, and each time we are checking to see about the crimp. Remember, we had to put the bell on the case mouth, so now we're taking that bell out. You see how it doesn't even fit in my case length gauge? Doesn't even want to go in there because I have too much bell, too much case mouth expansion, and that's what this step does here. It takes it out. So we're just doing small increments, checking it. You can see that if I hold this close, that the case is still belled around the bullet. And that's what we're trying to get rid of in this station. Let's take a look. I can visually see that I haven't done nothing yet. So we're just turning the die body down. We keep turning the die body down until we start finding that crimp, getting rid of that crimp. You can feel it on the side of the case. If you run your finger up on it, you can actually feel it. Not quite doing nothing yet. Now we're starting. I can feel it starting to go away. Now we got it. Look at that. We want this to just fall right in, nice and smooth. So I'm going to get just a little tiny bit more. Raise the ram. I don't want too much of a crimp, but I want enough where it's going to be very easy to chamber. And that looks pretty nice. Drop that baby in. Let's try it on this one. Good. So that is our first completed round. But before we lock this die, we're going to put that back in there, and we are going to put the locator button back. Raise the ram. What we're going to do is we're now going to lock the die body lock ring. We'll lock that up, so we lock that setting in. So all 4 of these dies are now set. Now we rotate that round off. Let's start it. Let's rotate this around here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slide into the completed cartridge bin. So we have our first completed round. Okay, let's go ahead and check our setup. We have a once fired piece of brass here. We're going to insert it into station 1. We're going to decap and resize, knock out the old primer. We're going to come forward and we're going to prime on the forward. Station 2 is going to flare the case mouth, and it's going to give it a powder charge. Station 3, we're going to come over here and we're going to seat the bullet. Station 3. Station 4, we're going to crimp that case. Now let's come down the cartridge bin, the chute, and let's check it on the case length gauge. Make sure it falls in nice and easy, which it does. And let's, just for good measure, let's check it against this other one. I want them to fall in nice and free. You notice I'm not shoving them in. Now, everything looks good so far. Let's check our overall length. We should have something in the neighborhood of 1.480. Somewhere in that neck of the woods. 1.4785. I think we're good. 1.480 is what we were looking for. So this is a perfect completed round. Ready to put into my pistol, ready to go out to the range, and that's what we were looking for. That's what we want right there. Looks nice. It's a good looking round. Okay, let's go ahead and load a few rounds. I have a bunch of brass over here. I'm going to start loading some brass up. We're going to get progressive now. 3. Now we're going to start seating bullets. Didn't go down the chute. There we go. Didn't do it again. We're not sliding down the chute like we should. I'm checking to make sure I got a charge. Did I get a primer? Yes, I did. Got powder? Yes, I do. Going to crank out a few rounds so that we can go plinking. The press is operating very smoothly. Now that I've got everything set up, you can see that in a short amount of time I'm able to put out a lot of ammunition. Again, before I seat any bullets, it's very important to note that you're taking a look and making sure that you have powder in station 3 before you seat the bullet. You want to make sure that you're doing that. Don't want to miss out on that. Something felt funny on that seat, but it seated the primer no problem. It was off a little bit or something. Now we're definitely in a progressive motion now. Press operates like a dream. It's a really good press. I'm looking down in station 3 every time, making sure I have everything I need. Plenty of powder down there. As you can see, this press, now that we've got it all set up, it operates very smoothly. Okay, low primer alarm. We're going to keep going until we don't have any more primers. Okay, take that off. We're going to keep going though. Cycle it over. As long as we keep getting primers, we're going to keep going. I think I have, there's one more in the chute, so let's keep going. I've got powder. There's another primer still, so we're still going. Plenty of powder. Now we're out of primers. So what we're going to do is we're just going to finish this rotation. And that's it. We're done. So just in a short amount of time, we were able to get quite a bit of bullets done. Now we're going to just take one at random. And we'll check our overall length again, 1.480. Perfect. Folks, I want to say thank you for joining me today on setting up my DILLON 550B and reloading some 38 Special. I hope you got some good useful information out of this video. Please feel free to leave comments down below, like this video, share this video, and if you like the type of content that you see on my channel, please hit that subscribe button. And until next time, folks, thanks again for watching. Have a beautiful day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.